Ethan's eyes opened slowly, the bright white light above him blinding his vision. His head felt heavy, and the last thing he remembered was the crash, the burning metal, the sound of alarms, and then nothing. Now he was lying on a strange bed, covered with a soft silver blanket. The walls around him were smooth and shiny, made of some kind of metal that reflected light in strange ways. There was no window, only one small glass panel on the door across the room. He tried to sit up, but his body ached all over. As his eyes adjusted to the light, he noticed shadows moving behind the door. Then the panel lit up with a faint glow, and Ethan froze. 3 figures appeared, tall and graceful, their movements smooth like flowing water. They were not human. Their skin had a soft glowing shimmer, and their eyes were large, bright, and almost too beautiful to look at. Their hair was long and flowed like strands of silver mixed with colors that changed as they moved. They spoke in a strange language, the words flowing quickly. But Ethan noticed one word repeated again and again. It sounded like meat, and his heart began to race. He pressed himself back against the wall, his mind filling with fear. Were they talking about him? Were they planning to eat him? The door slid open with a gentle hiss, and the 3 alien girls stepped inside. They were even more stunning up close, their features perfect, their expressions unreadable. One of them carried a tray. It was filled with strange fruits that glowed faintly and a piece of something that smelled like roasted meat. Ethan's stomach growled, but he didn't move. The tallest girl spoke softly, her voice like music. But the words were still strange. Another girl placed the tray in front of him, her bright eyes watching him closely. Ethan shook his head and pushed the tray away. He was sure it was a trap if he ate. Maybe they would prepare him for whatever came next. The 3 aliens looked at each other, then back at him. They didn't seem angry, only curious. One of them, with a soft blue glow to her skin, leaned closer. Her lips moved slowly, as if she was trying to speak his language. In broken English, she whispered, "Soon. You will be ready." Ethan's blood ran cold. Hours passed. Or maybe it was only minutes. Time felt strange in this place. The aliens left the room. The door ceiling shut behind them. Ethan tried to find a way out, but the walls were smooth, and there were no handles or buttons. Only the small glass panel remained, and beyond it, he could see shadows moving in the hall. Every so often, he heard soft laughter, the sound both beautiful and chilling. His mind kept returning to that one word he thought he had heard, meat. He imagined them discussing how best to cook him. Or maybe they were waiting for him to get stronger before they made their move. When the door opened again, only one alien entered. She was carrying a clear container of water and a small device that looked like a tablet. She placed the water near him and sat on the edge of the bed. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Then she tapped the device, and a soft, mechanical voice began speaking in English. It asked him strange questions. How strong are you? What is your blood type? Do humans have bonding rituals? Ethan didn't answer most of them. Instead, he pretended to be weak, coughing and leaning back as if he could barely sit up. If they thought he was sick, maybe they wouldn't want to eat him. The alien girl didn't seem convinced. She kept studying him with those bright, unblinking eyes. Finally, she stood and said something to the device, which translated into, "Rest, soon we begin." And then she left, the door closing again with that same quiet hiss. Ethan sat in the silence, his thoughts racing. What did begin mean? Was it a test, a ceremony, or a preparation for something far worse? He thought about the fruits, the water, the way they kept observing him. It felt less like kindness and more like someone taking care of an animal before slaughter. As exhaustion took over, his eyes began to close. The last thing he saw was the faint glow of light under the door and the shadows moving beyond it. Somewhere in the distance he heard the word again, that same strange word he thought meant meat, followed by soft musical laughter. And in that moment, Ethan knew one thing for sure. Whatever their plans were, he wasn't going to like them. Ethan woke to the soft sound of footsteps, slow and almost silent. When he opened his eyes, he saw two of the alien girls standing near his bed. One of them was holding a folded set of clothes, strange, smooth fabric that shimmered when the light touched it. The other carried a silver bowl of clear water and a towel. Without speaking, they placed the items on a small table next to him. Ethan didn't move at first. His mind was still filled with the fear from before. But then, one of the girls smiled. It wasn't the kind of smile humans give. It was calm, graceful, almost too perfect. Yet something in it made his skin crawl. The taller of the two gestured for him to drink. When Ethan didn't move, she picked up the bowl and held it out. He hesitated, then slowly reached for it. The water was cold, fresh, and unlike anything he had tasted before, it was sweet. Almost like melted snow mixed with fruit. Part of him wanted to drink all of it, but another part whispered that maybe it was laced with something. So he took only a small sip and set it down. The second girl unfolded the clothes and held them out. They were clearly made for him. The size was perfect. The fabric soft against his fingers. It made him wonder, how did they know his size? He hadn't told them anything, and yet it seemed they already knew too much. After they left, Ethan decided to explore the room again. It was larger than it first seemed. There was no furniture except the bed and the table, but the walls had strange markings, faint and glowing. When he touched one, it lit up brighter for a second and then faded. It was almost like the room itself was alive later. Another alien girl entered. This time it was the one with the soft blue glow to her skin. She carried a small, smooth device that fit into the palm of her hand. She tapped it, and it began to speak in a gentle, mechanical voice. Human. Eat, drink, rest, it said slowly. Then it asked, what is your name? Ethan didn't answer right away. The girl tilted her head, watching him as if his silence was just as important as his words. He finally replied, Ethan. She repeated his name with surprising accuracy, as though testing the sound on her tongue. Then came the questions. How strong are you? What do humans fear? What is your bonding ritual? The last question made Ethan stiffen. Bonding ritual? Why would they want to know that? He decided to act weaker than he felt. He coughed, leaned back, and let his eyes half close. Maybe if they thought he was useless, they would leave him alone. But instead, the alien girl stepped closer, her bright eyes locked on his. She placed her hand gently on his shoulder and said in slow, broken English, Soon. We will begin. Then she turned and left without another word. Ethan's heart pounded. The words echoed in his mind. We will begin. Begin what? He glanced at the untouched food from earlier, the clothes, the glowing walls. It felt like they were preparing him for something big, something he wasn't sure he wanted to be part of. That night, the room's lights dimmed on their own. Ethan lay awake, listening. He could hear voices outside, soft, musical, but with an edge that made his skin prickle. Every so often, he caught that same strange word again, the one that sounded like meat. Only now he wasn't sure if it really meant meat. Maybe it was something else entirely. But the uncertainty didn't make him feel any safer. When he finally closed his eyes, the last sound he heard was the soft click of the door unlocking and the feeling that, even in his dreams, he wouldn't be alone. Ethan woke to an unusual silence. The faint hum of the walls was gone. Even the soft footsteps and voices outside had disappeared. It was the first time since he arrived that the place felt empty. The door was still closed, but when he touched the panel, it slid open without resistance. He froze for a moment. Was this a mistake? Or was it a trap? His curiosity won over his fear. Slowly, he stepped out into the hallway. The corridor was long and curved, glowing faintly from light strips that ran along the floor. The air smelled different here. Cleaner, sharper, like the inside of a hospital mixed with something sweet. Ethan walked carefully, staying close to the wall. He passed several closed doors, each marked with strange glowing symbols. Most of them were locked when he tried to touch the panels. But then, he found one that slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the room was vast. Rows of glowing tubes stretched across the floor. Each tube held a strange liquid, and inside the liquid was something alive. His breath caught when he realized some of them looked human. Not quite human. Their features were slightly different. Their skin marked with faint patterns like the alien girls. It was as if they were halfway between human and alien. His stomach turned. In the center of the room stood a tall holographic display. It showed an image of a human male standing beside one of the alien girls. Lines of alien text surrounded them, with diagrams of DNA spirals twisting in the air. The translation device wasn't with him, but he didn't need it to guess what this was. They were studying him, his body, his DNA, his compatibility with them. A sudden sound made him spin around. Liara, the blue-glowing alien girl, was standing in the doorway. Her expression was unreadable. For a moment, they stared at each other. Ethan expected anger, or maybe a call for guards. Instead, she stepped into the room slowly, her eyes fixed on him. "You shouldn't be here," she said in broken English. Ethan's voice was tight. "What is all this?" Liara tilted her head, glancing at the hologram. "This is preparation," she said softly. Her tone wasn't threatening, but it wasn't comforting either. Before he could ask more, she pressed a panel on the wall, and the hologram faded away. The tubes dimmed, the liquid inside turning cloudy, hiding their contents. She walked toward him, each step slow and deliberate. "You will understand soon," she whispered. Her eyes glowed brighter for a moment, and for a second, Ethan felt something strange, a warmth in his chest, like a spark trying to light. It was gone just as quickly, leaving him unsettled. Without another word, she guided him back to his room. The door slid shut behind him, locking with a soft click. Ethan sat on the bed, his mind racing. He didn't know what preparation meant, but now he was sure of one thing. The alien girl's plans for him were bigger than he ever imagined. Ethan woke to the sound of soft chimes. They were unlike any sound he had heard before, deep and hollow, yet strangely beautiful. The light in his room had changed, shifting from the usual white glow to a warm golden tone. A sweet scent filled the air, like flowers and rain mixed together. The door slid open, and all three alien girls entered at once. They were dressed differently now. Their usual simple clothing had been replaced with long, flowing robes made of shimmering fabric that shifted colors as they moved. Each of them wore intricate jewelry made of crystal-like stones that pulsed with light. Liara stepped forward and placed a folded garment in Ethan's hands. It was soft, light, and strangely warm. She spoke in slow English. "Wear this now." Ethan hesitated. The garment looked like a ceremonial robe, decorated with swirling patterns that glowed faintly in the dim light. He could feel every muscle in his body tensing. "What is this for?" he asked, his voice low. Liara's glowing eyes locked onto his. "Bonding," she said. As if that single word explained everything. Two of the girls left the room while Liara stayed. She waited until Ethan reluctantly put on the robe. It fit perfectly, almost too perfectly. Then she gestured for him to follow. The hallway outside was different now. The walls were covered in glowing symbols, slowly shifting and changing like they were alive. The floor felt warm under his feet. The chimes grew louder as they walked, mixed with the sound of soft voices chanting somewhere ahead. They reached a large, circular chamber. The air was filled with a golden mist that swirled gently around the room. Crystals hung from the ceiling, each one glowing with a heartbeat-like pulse. In the center of the room stood a raised platform surrounded by curved pillars that looked like they were carved from living bone. The chanting grew louder. Ethan's eyes darted around. There were other aliens here, watching silently, their glowing eyes fixed on him. Liara led him to the center of the platform. Two of the girls began placing small crystal orbs around his feet, each one glowing brighter when it touched the floor. One alien girl stepped forward with a silver bowl of shimmering liquid. She dipped her fingers into it and gently touched Ethan's forehead, leaving a mark that felt warm and tingled. Slightly, Ethan's pulse quickened. "What is this?" he asked again, his voice unsteady. Leora stepped closer, placing her hands on his shoulders. "In our people. Bonding is forever," she said softly. Her glowing eyes seemed to pierce straight into him. He tried to step back, but the orbs at his feet glowed brighter, and suddenly he couldn't move. The chanting reached its peak, and the crystals above began to flash. Ethan felt a strange pressure in his head. It was like someone was gently reaching into his mind, touching thoughts he didn't want touched. Images flashed before his eyes, alien cities, deep oceans, skies filled with strange flying creatures, and then himself, standing beside Leora, their hands joined, both of them glowing with the same light. Panic surged through him. He struggled to move, but the invisible force held him in place. Leora leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. "When this is done, you will never be alone again." Before he could reply, she placed a glowing crown on his head. The moment it touched him, everything went white. Ethan's eyes opened slowly. The blinding white light faded into soft green and gold. He was no longer in the crystal chamber. Instead, he lay on soft grass beneath the shade of tall, silver-leaf trees. A gentle breeze carried the scent of flowers he had never seen before. Somewhere nearby, water flowed over smooth stones. He sat up quickly, his heart racing. The alien girls were there, but they looked different now. Their glowing robes were gone, replaced with simple flowing garments. Their faces were softer, calmer, almost human in their expressions. Leora stepped forward, kneeling beside him. Her voice was clear now. "No broken English, no translation device. You can understand me because we are linked," she said. Ethan's hand went to his head, remembering. "The crown. What did you do to me?" he asked. "You thought we wanted to harm you," she said gently. "But we needed to bond, not to take your life, but to share it." Her words felt strange, not just in his ears but in his mind. When she spoke, he could feel her emotions, calmness, relief, and something else, something warm. She explained that her people had discovered humans were one of the few species in the galaxy able to form a soul link with them. This link allowed both minds to share thoughts, emotions, and even strength in times of need. It was sacred to her. Kind, done only when trust was certain. But they had little time, and that was why they rushed the bonding. Ethan frowned. "Why me?" Leora's eyes softened. "Because you are compatible, and because without you, my people will fall." Images began to appear in his mind without warning. He saw massive alien ships approaching a world covered in oceans and shining cities. He saw fire, destruction, and a shadow that blotted out the sky. Leora's voice echoed in his thoughts. "They are coming for us, and now that you are bonded to me, you can help us stop them." Ethan tried to pull away from the images, but they clung to him like smoke. He could feel her fear as if it were his own, and beneath that fear was something unexpected. Hope. Leora reached out, placing her hand gently on his chest. "Before the bond, you could only see us as strangers," she said softly. "Now, you will see us as family." Ethan looked around at the garden. The glowing trees, the flowing water, it was beautiful. But he couldn't forget the tubes he had seen in the Forbidden Room. "What about the others?" he asked sharply. Leora's gaze lowered. "Not all bonds survive. Some were not ready." Her voice trembled. And Ethan realized she wasn't just talking about experiments. She was talking about loss, real loss, for the first time since he arrived. Ethan didn't feel fear. He felt the weight of something bigger than himself, and deep down, he knew this wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about choosing where he belonged. Asterisk, the bond changed everything. Ethan could now hear Leora's thoughts like soft whispers in the back of his mind. Not words, but feelings, waves of emotion that rose and fell with her every breath. When she smiled, he felt warmth. When she remembered the shadow ships, he felt dread. It was impossible to separate her feelings from his own. The other two alien girls introduced themselves now. The one with shimmering gold skin was Sarai, calm and watchful. The shorter one with emerald green markings was Vera, her energy sharp and restless. Through the bond, Ethan could sense they didn't fully trust him yet. But there was something else. Hope, faint but growing. They took him beyond the garden. The world outside was breathtaking. Silver mountains rose against skies painted in shifting colors. Crystal rivers flowed through glowing forests, and in the distance, Ethan saw tall towers that seemed to grow out of the earth itself. "This is our home," Leora said, her voice both proud and heavy with worry as they traveled. Ethan began to understand their situation more clearly, through flashes of shared memory. He saw the invaders, a cold, ruthless species that harvested entire worlds. They moved like shadows in the void, leaving nothing alive behind. The alien girls' people had fought them before, but their numbers were too few. Leora believed that, with a bonded human, they might stand a chance at first. Ethan didn't see how he could help, but the bond was already teaching him things. When Leora focused, he could feel a strength flowing into his body. His muscles tensed, his senses sharpened. In return, his own instincts, his human way of thinking, began to flow into her. They were faster together, stronger together. It was both terrifying and thrilling. They stopped in a hidden valley where a group of Leora's people trained for battle. Weapons hummed in their hands, powered by light and thought. One warrior challenged Ethan to a test. At first, he could barely block the blows. But then Leora's presence surged in his mind, guiding his movements. In seconds, his clumsy defense turned into precision. When the test ended, the warrior gave a respectful nod, a sign Ethan didn't yet understand, but felt deeply. That night, they sat around a glowing firestone. Vera, usually distant, spoke directly to him. "If you fight with us, you are one of us," she said, her tone firm. Ethan looked at each of them. He could feel their fear of the invaders, their desperation, and something else, a silent question they didn't dare speak. "Will you stay?" The choice weighed on him. If he stayed, he would be part of their war, their lives and their world. If he left, he might never see them again. And though he barely understood this bond, he knew it wasn't something that could be undone. As the firestone's light faded into the alien night, Ethan realized something. The fear he felt now wasn't of them, it was of losing them. The morning came with a sky of molten gold. The air was still, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Ethan stood at the edge of a high cliff. Far below, the alien city shimmered in the morning light. Beyond it, the horizon burned with the faint glow of the approaching enemy fleet. Behind him, Leora, Sarai, and Vera waited. They had said nothing since dawn, but through the bond, Ethan could feel their thoughts, a tangled mix of hope, fear, and quiet sorrow. This was the moment they had been waiting for. The council had offered him a way home, a ship, repaired and ready, that could take him back to Earth before the first enemy ships arrived. He could almost see it in his mind, the blue oceans of home, the familiar stars, the life he had lost. When his ship crashed, the choice should have been easy, but the bond had changed him. He could feel Leora's heartbeat as if it were his own. He could sense Vera's restless energy, Sarai's steady resolve. They weren't strangers anymore. They were part of him now. Leora stepped forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "If you leave, the bond will fade," she said. "You will forget us, and we will forget you." Her eyes glistened, though no tears fell. Ethan felt the ache in her chest, the fear she was trying to hide. He turned back toward the burning horizon. The enemy fleet was closer now, dark shapes blotting out pieces of the sky. He remembered the training, the fire in Vera's eyes, the quiet nod of respect from the warrior, the way the people in the valley looked at him with hope they didn't dare voice. This wasn't just their fight anymore, it was his. He stepped away from the cliff's edge and faced them. Home isn't a place, he said softly. It's the people you fight for. Leora's eyes widened. Sarai's lips curved into the smallest smile. And Vera let out a short, sharp laugh, half relief, half pride. The sound of distant thunder rolled through the air, but it wasn't thunder. It was the invaders. Breaking through the atmosphere, Ethan picked up one of their strange, humming weapons and felt the bond surge like a second heartbeat. 3 hands reached out and touched his shoulders, and in that moment, they weren't just human and alien anymore. They were one. The sky above burned with enemy fire. The ground beneath shook with the first impact, and Ethan smiled. Let's show them what happens when they mess with my family.